Hello, so this is an example of a picture-based creative writing. It will be useful for both 11 plus and KS3 or KS4. This question actually came up for the CSSE 2022 11 plus question. So for all 11 plus students watching this will be very useful. He stood in the same place as he had yesterday, and the day before, and the countless days before that. The street around the tiny corner shop had the acrid stink of petrol and was littered with carelessly dropped cigarette butts and other disgusting detritus. However, for all its unpleasantness, it was also a place people were sure to frequent. Despite the coat some stranger had given him the previous night, he could still feel the bite of cold underneath the wall. The wind's long, thin fingers stung his ears and tore at his brittle white hair, and he shivered, trying to swallow back a hacking cough. Well, he was never going to earn just standing here out in the open. At most, it would have raised a few eyebrows. Nobody was going to offer money or food to a seemingly fit, idle 60-year-old he knew from experience. The illnesses which had plagued him for so long were not outwardly visible. In his more desperate moments, he had envied the other homeless, who had more noticeable afflictions, and so he wearily reached into his old duffel bag and took it out, his only companion all these years. Mechanically, he placed the violin under his chin and positioned the long bow over the strings. And he played, drowning himself in the deep, haunting tune. Once he started, it always came as naturally as breathing, the rhythm as smooth as the soft flow of a river. The bow became part of his arm, moving up and down, faster and faster, gliding along the strings with fluid skill. His fingers flew, his heart raced and his soul soared, and he played and played and played, until the whole grimy corner of the street was serenaded with the melancholy melodies of Bach's sonatas. He was oblivious to the covert, guilty glances people gave him, before hurrying along their way like burdened ants. He never noticed the ones who did condescend to hastily drop a few coins in his cup. He did not even bother to acknowledge the small group of listeners who gathered around. He was transported to a land where he was free from all earthly shackles. For a short, precious time he was blithe and buoyant. It was only until dusk arrived, and the temperature had plummeted, that he stopped. The spell had broken, and he desultorily looked at his plastic cup to inspect his day's earnings. With a listless shrug, he stepped into Rosa's cafe to grab a bite, before shuffling back to his corner under the market bridge. And tomorrow would be just the same, and all the tomorrows after that. When writing based on pictures, it's always good to take certain elements from the picture and try to include them in your writing. For example, I noticed that the man in the picture was wearing a coat, so I added a detail about it in this sentence. Despite the coat some stranger had given him the previous night, he could still feel the bite of cold underneath the wall. I also thought that the man in the picture looked sad and thoughtful, so I thought that I'd create a story based on those emotions. Before you start writing, you should always decide the primary emotions of your piece. Also, because this picture is a close-up, you can decide the setting. You should make it clear in your piece where the story is taking place. In my writing, I described the street corner and how long he'd been living there and his general situation. Here are some of the literary devices that I used in the example. There are examples of alliteration, personification, similes, triplication, and metaphors. If you want, you can pause the video now to read through the literary devices. Also, here are some of the good words that I used in the piece. If you pause the video and look at them, you'll notice that the words are good words, but they also felt natural while reading through the writing. In your writings, try to avoid using too many over-the-top, grandiose words, because it just makes the piece seem more unnatural and artificial. I hope you all found this video useful. If you did, please like it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and please share.